Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffy Kennedy, author of fantasy romance and romantic fantasy. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. I'm indoors today, so I have my little dragon wind chimes. If you're on video, you could see the dragon. The This thing broke the little bracket beneath, but I think this works for indoor wind chimes. What do you think? Or should I make a recording of the outdoor ones? Inquiring minds want to know. But I mean, it differentiates indoor from outdoor. Today is Tuesday, October 12th, a stormy, blustery day here in Santa Fe, so I'm indoors. Me and the plants indoors, being protected from freezing. Um, Feeling much better today. Thank you to all of you who sent good wishes and said that you hoped I would feel better. Yeah, lots better today. Actually, I think I look better. Don't I look better? Yeah. It's one of those things that people never mean it wrong when they say that you look tired, but it's also true. I mean, we show so much on our faces of how we feel, and uh, yeah, I think I just, my mom is so funny. I love you, mom. She's like, "Do you think you have mono?" I was like, "No, I don't think I have mono." Um, I think that it's just that accumulation of, you know, during lockdown, we all got so rested because we didn't have a choice, and then we go out and start doing all these things again. And even though I haven't been doing massive travel, I have been going somewhere pretty much every month and pushed hard on those two deadlines. And it's just tiring. And pointed this out to my mom, like going to San Diego for a birthday weekend. Um, when they got back, they were tired. And it's like, you know what? It turns out that traveling's tiring. And I think while we all kind of knew this, like we would come back from trips and be tired or whatever. Um, I think it's all, it's like that frog in the boiling water analogy, which gets overused, but it's useful, that if you put a frog in boiling water, it'll do its best. We say it hops out, but will it? Is it able to? But the idea is there. Uh, but if you put it in a pot of cold water and gradually heat it up, um, it won't react in the same way. And I think that it's the way that our senses work, the way our brains work, is that we are constantly adjusting to the kinds of input and output that we have. And I remember when I was traveling for the day job, and I've talked about this before, traveling sometimes 2 weeks out of every month for months on end. And I got pretty used to it. But looking back on it, I can see that I was completely exhausted. I was utterly sleep deprived and completely exhausted. And, I think we become accustomed to a particular state of exhaustion. And once that goes away, we we kind of wake up and be like, "Oh, wait, that feeling that I was feeling all the time was actually exhaustion, and I don't have to feel that." Uh, and it's just funny. It's the same thing with stress. Like you go on vacation and you don't think that you were all that stressed, or you think, "Oh, well, I was kind of stressed, but it wasn't so bad." Uh, and then you go on vacation. And for me, it's like around day 3 of a vacation, all of a sudden you can just feel yourself let go. And you're just like, oh, and you realize that was all that stress that you were carrying around. So, um, finding ways to have that be our lives instead of a break from our lives, I think is the goal. It's but it's hard because we get used to it. I think that's partly what's going on with like people not being able to get labor at these restaurants. Like I don't know about you guys, but around here, we still have all these places saying, um, you know, we can't get enough staff for, so we won't be open for dinner. I've got a fuzzy on my sleeve. Isabel says hello. Um, and people are saying, oh, well, it's because everybody wants to stay home and collect unemployment benefits because they make more money that way. And it's like, okay, well, first of all, if unemployment benefits pay more than your stinking job, then problem A. But also, I don't, here they've ended, the unemployment benefits for a pandemic have ended. And it is not easy. David was collecting unemployment because he wasn't safe driving for Uber and Lyft during the pandemic. And, you have to go in and certify stuff every week. And, and they make you document all kinds of stuff. And I mean, it is not a picnic, you guys. Anyone who makes it sound like it's really simple, it is not. And that's for someone with a college degree and higher certifications and stuff. I don't know how somebody who, is like maybe not graduated from high school, I don't know how they find their way through that morass. But it's definitely not because it's the easy way to do things. But I do think that one thing that people discovered while they were on lockdown and having to take unemployment or having to come up with other things was people found gigs that were less awful than, like waiting tables at a restaurant. I've waited tables at a restaurant and it's a sucky job. It was one of my least favorite jobs. Cocktail waitress being top of the list of least favorite jobs. But, you know, food, food business, restaurant business is, it's a tough gig. It's tiring. It's stressful. It does not pay well. And so if people found other things that they could do for equivalent or better money. Why not? And I think people also found just quality of life, that it's like, oh, hey, it's actually really nice not to be doing these low paying, crappy jobs. Maybe I would like to continue having an actual life where I don't have to do this. And I feel like there's a lot of a lack of compassion there, right? Speaking of lack of compassion, my mom sent me an article from the New Yorker that is a good follow up to yesterday when I was talking about the bad art friend article. I think it's funny because the original article from the New York Times is called "Who is the Bad Art Friend?" Uh, with the question mark, posing the question. And but that phrase is drawn from the gal whose life and letter were plagiarized, where she wrote to the gal who had written this short story that was essentially a takedown of everything she hated about the other gal, um, Dorland and Larson. Dorland being the one who was the kidney donor, and Larson being the one who sort of plumbed her life for a short story and also did her best to blast Dorland. Uh, at one point, Dorland wrote to Larson, and in her kind of disingenuous way said, "I feel like you've been a bad art friend," um, which sums up a whole lot about what people probably find ridiculous about her. And yet, what a great phrase, right? I mean, it certainly stuck with us, the bad art friend. So, my mom sent me an article from the New Yorker that's essentially a review of Larson's short story. And I will link to that because it is a very interesting review. Uh, and at first I thought, well, I don't want to read this because the reviewers said, well, that a lot of people are correctly pointing out that so many people engaged in this debate never read the original short story. And I thought, well, does it matter? Does it matter? But then reading this gal's really incisive and thoughtful take on it, I found that it did make a difference to me. Because she said, part of Larson's defense of herself is that this was in the service of art, bad art friend or not, that she was doing this in order to, because it was just too good, because it was too important, because it said what she wanted to say. So the reviewer kind of came at it from the angle of, okay, was the art created indeed worthy of these choices? And it's very interesting because she reinforces a lot of my take, which, so of course I think it's brilliant. But she basically says her conclusion is that because Larson finds the character of Dorland so contemptible and laughable, that ultimately the story fails because she can't make Dorland's alter ego, that character, into a sympathetic character. She's so intent on taking her down that she can't, that she just ends up being flat. And even the protagonist, the Chinese American woman, um, ends up being flat also because she comes across as weirdly hostile in some ways. The reviewer put it much better than I did, but it's worth reading. I'll link to that. But it was interesting because at the end of the last line of the article, she said that ultimately, and I'm paraphrasing, ultimately the story fails because of what it lacks, which is kindness, which is really well put because, in the original version of the stories, it was called Kindly Dawn, which is how Dorland signs her letters. Um, and it does seem like we have these continuing conversations, right, about kindness and what does it matter. And I've been talking with my friend Kelly Robson about these articles, both of them. And Kelly has really good insights too, because Kelly understands a whole lot more about people who come from a severely abusive background. And she was pointing out that so much about Dorland, and Dorland is open about this, that she had a traumatic childhood. And Kelly's like, so much about her is evidence of this abusive past, and that she's busy doing things that nobody can argue are good things to do because she wants to be loved and approved of. And Kelly's like, that's just classic abuse symptoms. Um, and so it just makes it, I don't know, that much more awful to me that Larson and her circle of friends um, found Dorland so contemptible that they just couldn't even find it in themselves to be kind. It's you don't have to like a person, you don't have to be friends with a person, but how much does it really take to be kind to somebody, especially somebody who is damaged? It's a good question, and it's something that has, I don't know, become kind of a thing, right? With the current political situation or the ongoing political situation, where there is a contingent of people who find kindness contemptible, as a sign of weakness. And is it? I mean, it seems to me like being kind to somebody like Dorland uh, would have required a great deal of strength, right? It takes strength not to succumb to the animal instinct to expel the weak and the sick from the herd, to be kind in the face of frustrating and annoying behavior, even behavior where someone seems is so desperately attention seeking, right? Someone who really wants to be loved and approved of and becomes really irritating in their quest. Uh, it takes a lot to be kind to somebody like that. And it's amazing to me. One thing that sticks with me, and I'll probably keep mulling it, is that like Larson and her circle of friends, you know, did at any point someone say, "Hey, this is kind of uncool, you guys. This isn't a nice thing to be doing." Maybe they did. Maybe that person did, and they did the emotionally healthy thing, and they stepped away, which is what many of us would do. It's like I can't be part of this, right? So, um, in completely unrelated news, and maybe you all were being kind to me, but I only noticed on yesterday's podcast after I had, like, on my final thing where I share it to Instagram, I noticed that I had this like total cowlick, and you could still kind of see it here at the back of my head. It was totally sticking up, you guys, yesterday, and I kind of want to say how come nobody told me, but of course you are too kind to tell me, or it was too late, which it was. But it was funny because I washed my hair Sunday night before bed and I blew it dry, but apparently I didn't blow it dry quite enough. And so I've got this like, I even wet it down and poked it down. But I feel like you, Mom. My mom has an eternal cowlick that she is always fighting. And so I feel like a bit of solidarity with that. Uh, Minor things, right? But still, I thought it was funny. I was uploaded it and I was like, well, shit. Got this big old lumpy thing on the back of my head. Maybe you guys didn't notice. Oh, well. In the grand scheme, it doesn't matter. It's a small thing, but it's sometimes we focus on the little things in order not to worry about the big ones, right? So I'm still not done with the secret project, although I am close. I'm at, oops, let's see if we can see here. I'm at 18,000 words, and I'm shooting for somewhere in the neighborhood of 20. Um, I sent it to Dorinda to read last night. The part that I got to feels a lot better. So I sent it to her last night, and she has not emailed me with one of her this is so great. I love it so much. So she may tell me that the part that I think sucks, but at least I feel like the part I'm in now is better. So we'll see. It's probably going to be another week on this project, and uh, Gray Magic will be pushed back into January. It's just a question of how much, and I'm sorry. But I was giving someone else this advice the other day. Sometimes that's just how it goes, and you just have to figure on that. I'm not going to adjust the release date until I have a better fix um, of when it's going to go up. In other exciting news, though, look for the cover reveal of The Fire of the Frost coming tomorrow. Uh, this is the midwinter holiday fantasy romance anthology that I am doing with the fabulous Dorinda Jones, the equally fabulous Grace Draven, and the Frenchy fabulous Amanda Boucher. We're putting together the one-liners. I am setting up the pre-orders today. Cover reveal tomorrow. Very exciting stuff. So, on that note, I will toast you all with my mug. I've got my little taste of paradise mug today. A bit of St. Thomas for to counterbalance the wintry weather. I'll remind you all that First Cup of Coffee is part of the Frolic Media Podcast Network, and you will find more podcasts that you love at frolic.media/podcasts. And I will talk to you all on Thursday. You all take care. Bye bye.